We've got a funny one here. We got some funny stuff in this podcast. Title of it is, Wah! Local paper moans San Fran streets are getting mean for the unhoused, in quotes. This is a guy from Hot Air, and he's basically ripping the fact that people in San Francisco are concerned that things are getting tough for all of the drug addicts living in tents on their streets, pooping on the sidewalks. I'm going to reveal this poop graphic. Let's get into it. Let's not waste any more time babbling about nonsense. Here we go. So this article starts off with, holy smokes, I've read this thing 5 times and still can't believe it. This morning, the San Francisco Standard published a piece that encapsulates every aspect of the city by the Bay's life in perpetual denial. I've read the article as well. It is this article right here. San Francisco's rising anti-homeless sentiment is costing those on the streets. What about the citizens of San Francisco that are paying taxes and all of the absolute nonsense that they're enduring? What about that? Don't worry about that. I mean, we need to be focused on the homeless. I mean, they're having a tough time. People are going, more cash. We're going to a cashless society, and their panhandling is really in the dumps. For a major American city going down in spectacular Sodom and Gomorrah flames, that's a great sentence. A major American city going down in spectacular Sodom and Gomorrah flames. If you didn't read the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah, it didn't end up well for them. It didn't. I suppose it's only fitting that they would write a pity piece bemoaning the supposed mistreatment and hard times of some of the very denizens who have affected that bitter end. The puff piece by the San Francisco Standard, that is just basically to reach at the heartstrings of all those far left liberals that are just like, the poor people down on their luck in the tents, pooping all over our countryside. Oh, those poor people. It's a bunch of drug addicts. That's what it is. You don't have a homeless problem. You got a bunch of drug addicts. And like what recently was revealed by the San Francisco Police Department chief, they arrested 45 people on drug charges because they're kind of going after the whole fentanyl deal. They're arresting some people. Shocking, I know, right? They're going to arrest some people. We'll see if the district attorney actually does anything and gives people jail sentences, or they'll probably put them in some diversion program that they'll never show up to. And whatever. But the interesting thing that came out of that is that out of the 45 people that are arrested, just 3 of them were from San Fran. 3, like 7%. And so it's drug tourism. You've got drug tourism going on in San Fran, just like here in Seattle. I swear, most of the folks that are here and, living in these tents, they are not from Seattle. Portland, same deal. Those are not people from Portland. They are drug tourists. I think that's fair. And they go to a city where the laws are lax and the drugs are plentiful and the drugs are cheap and the laws are lax on stealing, because that's how they get their next fix. Or the laws are lax on any kind of sex work. Let's get this done. Nobody's going to say a word here. And that's what they're going to do. So John and I, back to the article, John and I have tried to keep you all abreast of the grinding implosion. It's like watching a train wreck, which turns out to be an apt enough metaphor, as no one is riding their metro trains. They're not riding metro trains in a lot of cities, but San Francisco in particular, because it's just a wreck. And that system is on the verge of collapse itself. Why? Predominantly because of the crime/homeless types running amok, which have completely stymied what post-COVID business or day traffic would have normally returned to by now. And to be honest, we've got this real tug of war with the whole return to work thing. But that's one more layer on top of it, is you got a bunch of homeless people and drug addicts that are just, not creating a conducive environment for any one of their commuting citizens to want to get on the bus. Don't want to do that. Get on the subway, get on transit, whatever form that might take. So, you've kind of got this perfect storm. Here's a little Twitter article. This is half a block from my office. Most expensive real estate in the commercial area. Union Square used to be a safe haven for luxury shoppers. We talk about Union Square all the time. It's close to the Tenderloin, and it is just getting decimated. The Fifth Avenue of San Francisco. Now gangs of criminals run wild. I'm going to have you watch this. This is some wild stuff. Here we go. These are people that have stolen thousands and thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And look at how many of them are. They're just running down. Get the hell out. Run, Forrest, run. They're stealing from a major store. I mean, that is, how many of them is there? I mean, it's insanity, right? It's insanity that kind of thing is going on. And you know what we're doing about it? Yeah. Nothing. Just letting them run away. So that's kind of a prime example of that dash and grab, and why San Fran may not be, anybody's dream location, except for the shoplifters. Yeah. The perpetual criminal thieves. The city is a revolting stew of third world snapshots and danger in every direction. So you get this one side, and then you got Mayor Breed going, it's not that bad. Good Morning America was all wrong. They had it all wrong. This is what people always, they're politicizing things going on here. She literally said the same thing about DeSantis, Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida coming here, and he basically said, yeah, things ain't going so great here. Vote for me. You know what DeSantis or Trump, all they have to do is like walk through the Tenderloin a little bit with an entourage. They got to walk through Skid Row just a little bit. Just get some basic footage of what's going on, and basically say, yeah, do you want to run? Do you want to vote for, the party that has this going on? Is this what you want for America? Because if you do, keep on voting this way, because this is what's going to happen. It's already happened here in San Francisco. It's already happened here in LA. It's already happened, whatever other towns they want to throw in. But talk about effective. I think that'd be effective. So I don't blame, Ron DeSantis from shooting footage in San Fran. And then you've got the mayor saying, well, he's not focusing on the complete picture of what's going on in the city. Well, no, because there's a lot more other crappy stuff going on that he didn't even get into. But these politicians, they want to say, well, he's focusing on this one little section here. And, San Francisco's a big city. So there's a lot of other areas that are in better shape. That is true. But if you're near the Tenderloin, and that's kind of what we're talking about, I'm pumped about this next segment. This next segment here, it's an interactive poo map. It's an interactive poo map. Let's go there. Let's see what we got on the poo map. There it is. Oh, look, we've got emojis. We got poop emojis. That's the same emoji that if you send right now, if you send a media inquiry to Twitter, you're going to get a poop emoji email back. I think that's brilliant. I've read so many articles. We inquired with Twitter and all we got back was a poop emoji. That serves you right, you knucklehead. Okay, so here's this. Now, you might think, okay, that's a lot of poop. That is not a lot of poop. Here's the interactive part of this, right? See all these little colored things? Yeah, that's poop. Each one of those is an incident of poop in San Francisco. Here's Market Street in San Fran. Here's the Tenderloin. I mean, you want to talk about some poop going on? You have just got incident after incident after. I mean, it's just so gross. I mean, this is literally the streets of San Francisco. So when we talk about, poop on the sidewalk, this graphic basically shows it. So there are apps that you can call in the poop. And so some kid at a college in San Francisco, he created this graphic, and let's see if we can find one here. Okay, here's one. And so each one of these, you can go more info and off. Yep. Oh, there's a picture right there. There's a picture. I picked a good one. That is disgusting. That is your sidewalk view in San Francisco. And all those little dots have, there's so, I mean, that's just, I'm sorry I showed that to you, but that is literally what you've got going on with the poop emoji graphic. And, you can't make that up. It's like, okay, now other cities don't have poop graphics like that. How come? Because their citizens use toilets. They haven't engaged the whole homeless drug addiction culture. Yeah. I will take a leap of faith and state that the source of the noxious problem isn't hordes of undisciplined Google executives eating bad sushi. He's saying, hey, you got human beings pooping on the streets, and it's so bad that you've got a poop emoji. You know, you got a website that, okay, we got poop on 5th and Main. Take a picture. And just craziness. After reading this article today, which also partially blames society's move away from carrying cash for the drop in homeless handouts, without noting the corresponding rise in bald-faced daytime robberies as a contributing no cash factor, what this guy's doing is he's saying, hey, you know, San Francisco, wake up. You got a real problem. And all you're doing is burying your head in the sand because you're stating, the homeless are having a tough time because everybody's gone away from cash. And so they just don't have enough money anymore to buy their drugs. That's what's happening. So then they're stealing. And nobody keeps cash because all their businesses are getting broken into. So many people have gone to a cash position or a no cash position. Virtually everyone in San Francisco has had a stranger ask them for money at one time or another, with some 7,754 people sleeping in sidewalks, tents, and shelters and underneath overpasses, plus tens of thousands more barely hanging on. The need has arguably never been greater. But the intensification of the San Francisco's homelessness emergency has coincided with a number of other trends that unhoused people say mean fewer of the once reliable dollars from passerby and less positive interactions more generally. Because they're whacked out on drugs. They're doing crazy stuff. They're pooping on the sidewalk. In what other city has a poop emoji like that? If there's some more interactive things like that, please let me know because I need to podcast on them. And that's just what we're doing here. That graphic is just, that's fantastic. Before this podcast, I looked at a whole bunch of those photos. Not pleasant. Do not look at that site mid-meal. That's not where you want to be, right? So I'm left to wonder if San Francisco's journalists even know where poo comes from, or feces, as the author calls it. And she only mentions it once. Of course, that is when a poo pile has been glad sandwiched, wrapped, and presented to an unhoused person as a truly sick gotcha. Ugh. That's gross. That story comes from the first person she interviews. He's been on the streets for 9 years and seems to be the classic down on his luck, can't catch a break sort of guy you'd expect to be on the streets unhoused. He recycles metal, is proud of what he says he accomplishes, is kind of just put out by people who have started locking down their bins so that he and others can't rifle through them. Cleans up the streets with his recycling. Where does the mess to clean come from? Don't ask. Just don't ask. Don't ask. And his sad residents are so damn cranky about the hordes of unhoused camping on their literal door stoops. So you've got this one angle that is just liberal and ultra left. And they're like, oh, those poor people, they can't catch a break. And there's no more people handing out cash to them. Got another story of another knucklehead doing something else. And then here we go. People who say the homeless are just local folks who can't afford the rent are lying. People live on the street because their addiction has led them to stop working, cut off ties to family and friends, and spend their time and money on drugs. And now, new data shows just 7% are locals. Let's watch this. This is just a couple of seconds long. Let's take a quick peeky at this, right?
Most of them are, list address in this country. But only 3 out of 45 list San Francisco as their address. And that was pretty, I don't want to say surprising, but that was something that we're paying attention to.
To me, that is not surprising at all. We talked about it. It's it's drug tourism. Hey, let's go somewhere where I won't get incarcerated. Let's go somewhere where it's easier to get the drugs. Let's go somewhere where drugs are cheaper. Let's go to San Francisco. I hear great things there. And we hear stories all the time about folks who end up here in Seattle. And it's like, yeah, I heard you give out free tents. It's the greatest concept ever. This is just stellar. I mean, why didn't I come to Seattle earlier? And then they get through a winter and they're like, it's pretty soggy here. I'm going to go back to San Diego. You got a lot of that. You got a lot of people doing a couple of months here, a couple of months up in Vancouver if they can get through the border, come back down, go down to Portland, go to San Fran. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Hey, I'm a drug tourist. Let's just, hop on a Greyhound bus and get out of here. In the opening paragraphs, the author Astrid Kane bemoans stereotypes how San Francisco Unhoused have gone from being known as guitar-strumming, tie-dye wearing, acid-dropping Timothy Leary clones to screaming, wild-eyed, hatchet-wielding, methed-up 20-something criminals or blotto druggies. That's exactly what's happened. And yet the citizens of San Francisco still have it in their mind that these poor people living in tents, they're those hippies from the 60s and 70s. They're not anymore. Wild-eyed, hatchet-wielding, methed-up 20-something criminals or blotto druggies. That's what they are. That's the issue San Francisco has. But they don't want to move off of that theory. Oh gosh, and they're really all so nice. That's what the article is saying. They're all so nice. Well, we've covered a lot of stories here where they're not so nice. You know what I mean? And the article goes on to give a couple more examples that just, paint people in the best of light. The best of light. They're just down on their luck. They're out busking. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. They had to get sober. They're pretty sober now. And so, this lack of cash is really impacting people. And people are being mean to the homeless. Meanwhile, you've got stories on here of just wildly out of control stuff going on the streets, on the daily, 24/7. Yeah, citizens are getting tired of this. I mean, when you got a poop emoji graphic map for your community, what does that tell you? I mean, what kind of third world country are you trying to emulate and probably surpass with just your filthiness and grossness and out of control, just everything. Wild, right? So you've got these two perspectives. One is, that's a bunch of drug addicts. You don't have a homeless issue. You got a drug problem. And then you've got, they just need a little bit of help because nobody's doing cash anymore. What's a guy to do who just, spends all day busking on the streets and, strumming his guitar and thinking about Timothy Leary and dropping some of that acid? I mean, it's so far out of the realm of reality. And yet it's still so many people's reality that they don't even check out. Hey, what is actually going on with all these tents? They don't want to know. They do not want to know. I have a lot of friends like that. They do not want to know. When I tell them, hey, it's not booze anymore. It's all drugs. And they're hardcore drugs that are really hard to get off of. People's eyes kind of go like this. They're like, what? What do you mean? I thought they were just all alcoholics. Nah, they're whacked out on drugs. Have you heard of fentanyl? People are like, what do you mean? I don't get it. Well, because you ignore every one of those stories that goes along. And you don't watch enough of News for Reasonable People. You just don't. You need to consume more News for Reasonable People. And then you'd have a reasonable outlook on things. I tell that to friends all the time. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? What? Like, yeah, here's a story for you. When people try and argue with me and I just bring story after story after story, they just give up. Because, what are you going to do? This is what I do, right? You're going to try and argue against a guy who literally, this is what I do. I do a little bit of real estate stuff too, right? But the vast majority of my time is talking about these storylines of things that are going wildly out of control and are impacting real estate and are impacting people and are impacting public safety. It's not that hard to figure out. You've got a cause and you've got an effect. When you have a poop emoji interactive map for your community, and I'm not talking just a few blocks around the Tenderloin. If you look at that map, if you want to go to our Discord channel, it's called Reasonable Plus. I'll have this article on there It'll be linked on there. You can go check it out. You can play around on the poop emoji all day long. Maybe I'll just put up the poop emoji map just separately so you guys can see that. You can play around with that. But it's like, oh, let's go see what the picture on this one is. Oh, yeah, that's not good. And that's, that is impacting San Fran tremendously. Same thing as all these other West Coast cities that have said, hey, yeah, same thing is impacting Philadelphia. The Kensington Avenue scene. You want to talk about some poop? But there they clean up the streets like once in the morning, do a real clean because it's gotten so bad. And then by the time nightfall comes, it's just right back to it because, drug addicts can't make it to the toilet. It's bottom line. Crazy stuff, right? Just like, what? What do you mean? Well, we got all the stories right here on News for Reasonable People. Hey, we also got some merch. Check that out. We got some good stuff. We have some more funny stuff. We got funny stuff on coffee cups, and I think we got some other stuff other than that. Check it out. Thanks for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.